Hello fellow Jerrycans. As my profession, I play a lot of that monster collecting video game franchise whose quality has dropped because the developers themselves literally said it will sell anyways. We're not here to talk about that franchise today. Why? Well, whenever I make a video, I always get these comments. Girim, you are but casual scum. Why don't you play a real Shin Megumi Tensei game like Persona 5 Royale or Persona 4 Golden? Pokemon is a casual ass pet sim that panders to lonely furries. So I finally decided to oblige to these comments to see what all the fuss was about. So I got myself a copy of Persona 5 Royale, which is an enhanced release of Persona 5, sat down, played it while streaming the first major story arc on stream. And what did I think of it? Keep it up. As you can see, I'm a man that's not familiar with SMT or Persona. As someone who only grew up with Pokemon as my only turn-based JRPG, this was quite an eye-opening experience. I hope by making this video, you Pokemon fans who are still in your own comfort zone get to branch out a bit like how I did with this experience. I didn't plan on making this into a full review of Persona 5 Royale, but turns out I had quite a lot to say not just about Persona 5, but me and my relationship with JRPGs. So this video became lengthier than I thought. So, I'm happy to report that this is a straight up review of Persona 5 Royale released in 2019. Well, first, I want to emphasize that I am not a weeb. I don't like anime. I don't like manga. I mostly grew up with Cartoon Network American shows, not Naruto. Recently, I tried reading Chainsaw Man cause my friends got me to, and I dropped the fucking thing after volume 6 because the stupid ass protagonist and the writing annoyed the hell out of me. It was not my thing. I am not a weeb. So naturally, I don't like JRPGs either. Yeah, I know that might sound shocking coming from a guy like me because Pokemon does fit the category of JRPGs, but I never played a Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest or something growing up. Pokemon was kind of the exception. So getting into Persona 5 Royale, I was very worried. I don't like turn-based combat because it feels like filling out an Excel sheet, and I get annoyed by anime tropes or cliches easily. Well, the people who recommended this game to me told me to at least play the first major story arc to see if I would get in the game and stop if it's not for me. So yeah, after playing that arc on stream with a live cam, I kept playing the game for myself on my own. Next thing I knew, 100 hours have passed. I have already purchased the sequel Persona 5 Strikers and plan to get 5 Tactica, and now Persona 5 Royale is in my top 25 of games of all time in no particular order. What a feat! I guess I should explain what Persona 5 is, what you do in the game to newbies that are like me who might be interested in trying it. So basically, you're a new high school student in Tokyo that was sent there on probation from a crime that he didn't commit.
Damn brat! I'll sue!
One would think a probation would send a teen to a shit school in a rural area, not a major school in the capital city, but whatever. Anyways, through some magical means, you get the ability to enter a strange other world called the Metaverse because this game came out in 2016 before the Zuck ruined the word. The Metaverse has been created by the dark, twisted desires of evil adult humans, and your job is to go into their hearts, battle monsters in classic turn-based combat while collecting some of them, and steal their treasure, which will magically make them into a better person. On the way, you gather your new friends you meet in high school and you create the gang called the Phantom Thieves. I heard many people compare this to Scooby-Doo because the Phantom Thieves do feel like a Scooby gang. You get the pet mascot, the idiot horny blonde guy, the smart one, the pretty one. I guess they don't smoke weed in Japan. But it actually feels more like, since I mentioned Cartoon Network, an edgier anime version of Codename Kids Next Door. You gather friends from school, go to a hideout, use creative weapons, and fight evil adults that are mistreating kids. The difference is, the villains aren't comedic cartoonish clowns that like to spank children, but actual sex predators and corrupt politicians. Whoops. Anyways, the first thing that really got me hooked into the game is how grounded the story is for such a colorful creative fantasy game. So the first villain you fight is Kamoshida, and minor spoilers, who's a gym teacher that's physically abusing students while at the same time extorting the female students and is a complete pervert. He's literally a sex offender pedophile, a Harvey Weinstein and Yandere Dev crossbreed, and the villain is just so hateable. Also, because he's a teacher, Joker and his friends are so powerless against him without the metaverse. So you really want to root for the protagonist to succeed and kick the asshole's butt so bad. I mean, the dude's action made a teenage girl try to attempt suicide. Man, this game's story is some really serious stuff. This makes all the crazy metaverse stuff have more weight, so it makes the player get invested in the story very well. Even though it's very exposition heavy and there are many fucking tutorials in the beginning, just because the story is so solid, the first 20 hours of this game is just a wonder to get through. I also like the dungeon exploring aspect of this game too. This game actually reminds me a lot of one of my favorite games of all time, the Zelda series. In Persona 5, you fight 8 evil adults in the game, and each one of them have palaces that you have to first explore and clear before challenging them in a boss battle. And each one of them have their own theme and gimmick that correlates well to the boss's character, i.e. the pervert teacher thinks of the school as his castle and he's the king, the drug dealing Yakuza thinks he's a bank owner, and I like how diverse each dungeon is. It's really like Ocarina of Time dungeons, except instead of Temple of Water, it's literally a castle, a bank, a star destroyer, a casino, a cruise ship, and more. Each palace design has its creative gimmicks and puzzles. It's really like Zelda, except the battles are in turn-based combat. I also like the addition of Will Seeds, which I heard was an addition in Royal. Basically, Will Seeds are 3 collectibles in each dungeon that are similar to 2D Mario Star Coins, and they are usually in really hidden spots or behind tough mid-bosses. I love when they reward players with optional additional exploration, so it's a nice addition. Boy, going back to P3 and P4 will be hard because I heard the dungeons there are more like roguelikes and procedurally generated. I guess they didn't expect how many fucking roguelikes indie developers would make a decade later in the 2000s. Another big part about the game is not just the adventuring or boss toppling. The other half of the game is about living your life as a high school student. The game then becomes a bit of a time management simulator, which is ironic considering how I procrastinated my ass in real life by playing this game. I used the time management simulator to destroy my time management. Anyways, you have only a select amount of time per each school day. You either have to go to the dungeon or do activities in the real world. Such activities you can choose include studying at school, reading a book, brewing coffee, going to the gym, eating out, doing a part-time job, being a pretentious movie critic, gaming at home, Wii Sports. Holy shit, this game is diverse. If this was ever any other game, all of these might have been useless features that you will never bother with. But all of them have a purpose too, because most of them are for raising your stats to raise your social stats or be a better phantom thief during battles. You could also spend time with your friends, build relationships with them to get closer to them. It's not just there for your amusement too, because getting closer to your friends and associates give you new abilities. And this is where the famously memed harem aspect of the game comes from. Because you're a male silent protagonist in the game, and the female characters are lining up to bend their ass for your handsome Harry Potter looking face. They also created a diverse cast of characters for all fetishes, from Catwoman Garus to school presidents, to goth girls, to anime Queen's Gambit that should have been a playful character, to smoking older woman, to smart ass lolly tweens that you will literally go to prison for, to mommies in maid outfits. But call me a dickless pussy, the dating in this game I really didn't give a crap much about. I cared more about building relationships with your bros, especially the more interesting older male characters, because their stories are just gripping. Agencies over hoes, I say. My personal favorites were the ex-Yakuza guy trying to get closer to his son, and Tsundere's stepfather figure, and of course the honest but failed politician. The game really got heart, and that's why I really enjoyed it. Anyways, what's left there is to compliment in the game. Alright, the presentation. I think Persona 5 Royale is the game equivalent of the Into the Spider-Verse animated movie, so stylized and filled with detail and animation. Just scrolling through this game's menu is a treat. I have to commend the animation team. just cycling through the shop is a visual feast with smooth transitions and natural art movement. Like some games can't even be bothered to model shop interiors, but this game went the extra mile to make everything look flashy. The battle UI is just awesome too once I got used to it. Everything just flows well, all the attacks are flashy and timed to the music. I will say, Persona 5 has possibly the greatest looking UI of any video game, which is something not most people even think about when playing a game. But sit down and play this to learn how just important presentation is even for the most basic stuff. Other game developers should take lessons from Persona 5. Persona 5 graphic-wise isn't anything special in technical sense. After all, it's a 7-year-old game. The trains in the subway stations look like something out of OpenVVE, the animations during cutscenes are very stiff, and I don't think it does even run on 1080p on Switch. But the art style makes up for it. They use the color red, white, black combo so well because the whole playing cards motif. I mean, the UI is just so iconic that one of the first things people got hyped about the Persona 3 remake is that the UI is stylized and natural like Persona 5. Persona 5 is one of the examples that show that video games can be art. Roll in the grave, Roger Ebert. Now, no game is perfect and I have to do my complaints too, as the blind hater on the internet I am. Here are some of my minor gripes about the game that didn't ruin the experience but could have improved. First letdown for me was that all the relationships are centered around the player. I wanted more interactions between established characters, sort of like support conversations in the Fire Emblem series. That's probably why all the romance in the game felt hollow for me. It's just girl characters fanning out over a silent protagonist who's supposed to be a blank cardboard cutout. I want to see relationship building between established characters. I want to see members of the Phantom Thieves interact with each other, not to see them interact individually with Joker. As someone who has the deepest darkest secret of loving to ship characters, it was kinda disappointing. Like, I want to ship Yuji and An, goddammit! Second, while the characters and the setting is gripping, hence why you will love the game, the story is riddled with problems. First, the pacing in this game is a bit, bad. It's a very long game, but there are too many parts where there's no interesting action and story going along, and it feels like I'm sitting through a visual novel and just constantly pressing A. Like, what the fuck was the point of that whole Hawaii trip gameplay or story or lore-wise? Other than to see Anne's tits, maybe. Also, the story gets pretty lackluster towards the end. Spoilers. They do a good job building up a final boss who's a regular criminal guy, but dude's not really the final boss. Because this is a JRPG developed by Atlus, it has to end with the characters using the power of friendship to beat God, and boy, I was facepalming when this happened. It's so stupid. I prefer a real established antagonist villain being the main villain, not some giant General Grievous wannabe. I really think they should have fleshed out bald Shinjo Abe, because sadly, the most interesting villain in the game is somehow Kamoshida or Akechi Goro to me. And I don't even like Akechi for the writing. Dude's a horrible twist villain, but he's just such a funny edgelord.
Persona! Loki!
Thankfully, Persona 5 Royal added some additional story content, and that villain is a bit more satisfying. But I don't know, man. I've seen this kind of villain motivation in other media done way better, and it just felt mid for me. Here's a minor complaint: the voice acting, or at least the inconsistency with it. I played with the English dub on, and the game has some really great voice actors. Shout out to Jeremy Lay as Makoto and Robbie Damon as Pancake Man.
Don't give me that cliche bullshit!
And the parts with voices are great, but not all the lines are voice acted, and it's very inconsistent about what parts are voiced and not voiced. Like, I understand if only important story stuff are voiced, and story unrelated stuff are not voiced, but sometimes there are story parts without voice acting, and miscellaneous stuff with voice acting. It was infuriating. If you get a great cast and willing to put in detail, have the entire game be voice acted, Atlus. Finally, let's talk about my biggest dislikes of the game, and that's all the battle related stuff. As previously stated, I dislike JRPGs and turn-based combat, and since this is the classic Atlus game, the combat of the game is entirely turn-based, and it just wasn't for me. Yeah, I understand why people love turn-based combat games. I get what challenges you may face in it, why people like to grind and play on the most insane difficulty mode. Despite the music and art style of the game, the combat of the game was just not for me. I played it in normal difficulty, never grinded in the mementos, and just lowered the difficulty if I met some asshole boss with an infinite HP bar. I also don't like the monster collecting aspect. Ironically, this part about the game actually made me miss Pokemon weirdly enough. So just like Pokemon, you collect monsters by battling them during encounters. However, how you get them is just fucking bizarre to me. You have to down them all, which is fair enough, but then you have to answer a psychological quiz and then get them right to collect. Why are we suddenly doing a guessing game during mid-battle? That just felt completely detached from the main SMT gameplay, and maybe wish I could throw a Pokeball at these penis monsters instead. Also, the fusion personas to create new personas mechanic, I just fucking hate it. First, it feels like a chore of random RNG. Yeah, there's probably some delicate way of using the right persona to save and load and get the perfect result when the alarm is on or some fucking shit. You can email me how at I don't give a goddamn shit at naver.com if you want to tell me how to fuse the perfect IV personas. But it just felt like I was forced to go to the development room every now and then to waste my time, and it broke the pacing of the story when I just want to see what happened next. Second biggest problem with the fusion. Like, whenever I get a Mew cool persona, I get attached to it and want to keep using it. It sucks that I have to keep fusing Mew ones to get stronger ones, and I can't get attached to any of them like a starter Pokemon. Keeping track of movesets so I can counter each element was a nightmare because it felt like I was constantly losing useful moves whenever I fused personas. This is what I mean by saying playing JRPGs felt like filling out an Excel datasheet. But despite this, I loved Persona 5 in the end. And the more I think about it, paradoxically, I would have liked this game if the JRPG mechanics and turn-based combat battles weren't in it. Like, imagine this game didn't have the battling. It would be just a life simulator about a Japanese high school student who could magically get all the bitches without saying a word. That would be boring. But conversely, if this game just was all about the battling and personaing, it would be boring too because I would get tired of it. Persona is like this weird mixed middle ground between the two game styles that somehow just makes it all work. The fact that the game often gives you a deadline is what makes it immersive. You can plan out your days on what days you will go monster battling, or do grounded realistic stuff like going on dates. Get too tired of turn-based combat? Go watch a movie with your bros. Get too tired of doing social interactions cause you're an I on the MBTI scale? Go hunt some penis monsters. And to go on a tangent about my personal gaming tastes, it's a similar situation with Pokemon for me too. I don't know if I mentioned this, but battling is like the least favorite aspect about Pokemon for me. I care more about the monster collection and adventuring and exploring aspects of Pokemon. But like, if battling wasn't in Pokemon, I wouldn't have liked it. I mean, it's kind of the whole point of the game to conquer all the gyms and league, right? And without battling, that's impossible. Doesn't mean I enjoy Terra Raid battles or online Pokemon battling. I'd rather do the Okumura boss battle again than play any of that. Well, this video ballooned into a lot longer than I thought it would. I wanted just to make a short impression video, but I kept writing more stuff, and it became a full review. In conclusion, Persona 5 Royal was an amazing gaming experience for me. Even though I was the least likeliest person to enjoy it, I thought it was a masterpiece of gaming that everyone should at least try. Also, as a Pokemon fan, it brought some perspective for me to widen my experience with JRPGs. The entire ordeal was fulfilling. The game was just memorable. The story is gripping, the characters are relatable and realistic, the premise is amazing, the art style is fantastic. It felt rewarding to spend 100 hours on this game. I will probably never forget the feeling when life will change place and you go up to Kamoshida's castle to finally kick his butt, and that will stay with me forever. If you're like me, who barely played any JRPG and was kind of scared by the stigma of the genre, I say, don't worry about it. Persona 5 made me forget all my worries. This might actually be a gateway drug to some of you to other Atlus games like the mainline SMT series. I heard Soul Hackers 2 was kinda ass though, shame. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna try Persona 4 Golden and Persona 3 Reloaded when it comes out, but maybe wait it out until that comes out on Nintendo Switch 2 or something, cause I can't imagine myself playing a Persona game without portability on my computer for 200 hours. Oh, and for all you Pokemon fans who never played non-Pokemon games, the people who literally thought Legends Arceus was a good game because they never played a non-Pokemon action game in their lives, go out and play this game please. I pray to God this will be an eye-opening experience to you people, to show just how lazy, rushed, cutting corners the people at Game Freak really are with their billion-dollar making JRPG series. But to all the annoying Persona fans, I will say this too. I'm not saying the whole SMT series is better than Pokemon series, but at its current state, the levels of giving a shit from the devs are just substantially different. I hope there is some miracle we get a Pokemon game that just has this level of effort one day.
You're living in a dream world!
How to end the video? Well, from my short experience, it seems waifu battles are a thing in the Persona community, so you guys might ask me, Who's your favorite Persona 5 waifu, Girim? You lifeless simpletons. These are fictional drawings of high schoolers, and like I said, the romance sucks in this game. That being said, I love trying new stuff I haven't experienced before with Makoto.
I really